Coming to the reforms part of it, as I am mentioning, that the existing Telangana State Fire Safety Act, that is quite outdated now. Honestly, it was created way back in 1999. Since then, there has been a sea change in the whole urban landscape in terms of real estate particularly, more so in the terms of high-rise buildings. Way back in the 90s, mid-90s and the late 90s, one couldn't imagine the kind of scenario that we see when we drive down towards Kokapet or Neopolis and all those areas, so on and so forth. That was the beginning. Keeping that in mind, and the recent developments, recent few unfortunate incidents, with the advice of our Honorable CM Garu, we have already come up with a draft amended legislation of the Fire Act. It has been put up to the government, and very soon we will be pursuing and getting it approved by the highest authority. That will make things in perspective and more in sync with the present times, the present developments, and keeping with the next 10-15 years future time also. The few of the key provisions of this will be, it will bring more buildings under the Act's purview, need not necessarily be the high-rise ones, it will just include all kinds of buildings. Introduction of a self-certification mechanism by the owners, obviously because we have a lot of constraint in terms of manpower. It will also empower the fire department to declare certain buildings unsafe if they don't fulfill certain criteria. Imposition of fines for violations, making the act, offenses under this act cognizable, enabling stronger enforcement. These are the broad parameters and the contours on which the present act was found terribly wanting and which needs an upgradation immediately. So these are going to be part of the new act that's going to come up. It will be liberal towards the compliant builders, those who follow the rules and the regulations, but it's going to be a little tough against those who violate the norms. Also mentioning about the third party auditors evaluation, that's also going to be one of the intrinsic parts of the new legislation. That will give scope for a lot of more business generation also, lot of professionals who are feeling left out of the system in terms of their contribution to the fire safety ecosystem. They'll also be drawn in part of this once the new act is in place. The IoT integration, as I mentioned a while ago, the Internet of Things, that is going to the future. We talk about AI, we talk about ML, we are talking about everything. IoT is going to be an intrinsic part of the real estate sector, more so for the high-rises buildings when we are talking about 70 stories. Mind you, 70 stories. 70 stories, 72 stories, no joke. This tower, one single tower is going to come up in the next 3 to 4 years somewhere in Gadkesar area. We have just given them the provisional NOC. That's where the IoT and all these things will come up. Where? Because obviously there are limitations to human interventions, to human checks and balances. You have to compulsory incorporate all these things into it. We are preparing to bring in IoT-based sensors into our fire ecosystem very soon. This will help monitor and prevent the real-time measures and also the relaying of data to dashboards. I'm not able to recall, but recently there was one fire incident in our surrounding area or somewhere in the city where there was just because of a delay of 10 minutes in calling up the fire 101, the fire just blew up. Luckily there were no, this was recently only in somewhere in South Zone. The fire was witnessed by the watchman. He was casual. He took good 10 minutes to ring up 101, and by the time our tenders and all things were there were already one casualty. The person died before our fire people could reach it. This shows that what are the limitations of the human intervention. So we are going to minimize on these aspects. Certainly that will be part of it, but it will be co-terminus with the technological interventions. Smoke detection, sir, again very important. Majority, I would say almost 99% of the fatalities, the casualties of any fire incident happens because of smoke inhalation. It's not because somebody just jumps or walks into a fire just like that. It's the smoke. Whether it's a small building or it's a huge building or the high rise, it's the smoke that is the biggest killer. So when I mentioned to you about the small things which you have to comply, keeping in view your limitations and your requirements, I can understand that. There are certain things which are absolutely non-negotiable. Making adequate, 100% foolproof smoke controlling measures is one of the things. When I go to any building for an inspection, Most of the places I am noticing that the horizontal and the vertical shafts are still kept open, and you are applying to us to NOC. Please don't be in a tearing hurry. Let me tell you, we are dealing with human lives. When your project comes up, thousands of people will be staying in those areas. Give a thought to them before really rushing into obtaining the various kind of statutory licenses and all those things. Smoke is one thing, be very, very careful. The other one was electrical appliances. Please don't compromise on, don't try to save anything on the electrical appliances and the wiring part of it. That is the most dangerous, the biggest killer of all. Building management system needs to be worked. We'll be talking to you later on also. Sir, this is just a platform where we are hardly, it's more like a monologue. You're all on the listening side. We love to have you have more one-on-one interactions, group interactions, come up with some workshops, plan it in a more scientific and a detailed manner so that we can come out with a roadmap and do something more meaningful about the whole thing. The idea is from reactive firefighting, we should think of preventive firefighting. We are also working with the best practices throughout the world, be it the US, the Europe, whatever. We are adopting and seeing whether those firefighting practices will really work in an environment, and we're going to pick up on the best from those also. A passing mention about EV fires, electrical vehicles. These are only going to increase in the coming times. If I'm not wrong, on an average in an apartment building, we could have about maybe 10% of the total vehicles could be EV as on today, maybe 5 or 8 to 10%. That is quite a modest estimate. This percentage is only going to increase in the coming times. Now, are we really prepared to handle that? Imagine you have 4 basements. You have 60, 70%, 80% of the vehicles are EV. EV vehicles, on the other one hand, while they are very good, the customer friendly, very easy to drive, maintenance free almost, at the same time they cover their own dangers, their own shortcomings, their own risks. Are we prepared to tackle that? Are we designing our buildings in that way? Are we incorporating because where do you park your vehicles ultimately? You have to park in the basements only. You can't park them on the main road outside. There's no space. Where do we put them? In the basements. Are we incorporating, are we adopting the latest practices? Are we thinking of some EV points? Are we evolving the technology of the EV? Because EV charging stations are equally dangerous. You won't have a clue till this whole basement catches fire. You won't have so many security guards moving and keeping an eye. This two-wheeler is likely to catch fire and no. So let us think and let's work on that jointly in the coming times. Ladies and gentlemen, coming to the conclusion of it, I got this very nice opportunity to say a few words with you, but as I said, this is more like one way. Anything, any good outcome comes only when we sit down, we brainstorm, share our good practices, the not so good practices, our fears and concerns, and what are our expectations for the future. I'm going to do that very soon. I take that responsibility of organizing some very well-planned, calendar-based kind of series of events with all of you so that we can take it in a right spirit forward. Particularly the way the sector is growing, it's just mind-boggling. All around you look, the way the city surroundings are developing, and I mentioned earlier, very soon there will be a day when the same scenario will start happening in like places like Warangal, Karimnagar, Khammam, and so on and so forth. So it has to be a complete statewide system and same standardization and the same awareness and the same competency. As I mentioned in the beginning, the architects and those consultants, they have to be equally trained. We'll plan some workshops for them also. We'll have some standardized trainings for them also so that your drawings in the initial stage itself are good enough to be approved. You don't come up later saying that you had approved this, but we have built this because our architect was not up to the mark. No, that excuse will be too late and too risky by then. It's a transformation. It has to be a partnership. We are just one of the stakeholders, sir, as I mentioned, apart from the other government departments. And of course, the biggest stakeholders being all of you, the real estate, the builders. Purpose is we should strive and we will definitely have a safe Telangana as far as the firefighting measures are concerned. And as they say, prevention is always better than cure. You have a fire, my tender goes there, it douses the fire. We are lucky if there are no casualties, but that is the secondary part. The first thing should be our preparations, our preventive measures, and a few of the things I could share with you at this juncture. It should not be a formality. It's about human lives, protection, and resilience. That is what we can do forward. I once again would like to uh, extend my warm welcome and thanks to Minister Sir. Sorry to keep you holding, sir. I would also like to thank Mr. Vijay Sai, the President of Neradko Telangana chapter, and the entire team that they have organized this nice event. Wish we can have these events more often so that we are